Well, it was April 1991, El Paso, Texas. And I was between Cotton Street and the tunnel that goes under El Paso City proper. I was greenhorn, only been riding about a year and a half. Freight train westbound stopped. Had a bunch of plug door boxcars and there wasn't no seal on the door, so I thought it was empty. So I twist that handle, pull the door out, and roll it back, and it's loaded with 8 foot high paper rolls that like that dang big around, and it had thick 1.5 inch metal banding to hold them in place. And I opened the door about maybe 2.5, 3 foot, but I didn't crank it back down. I didn't know to do that or spike the door. So I figured that I would just stay awake, and if the thing started to shut, I could reopen it. Well, I climbed up on the paper rolls, went back a couple of rows. I had a fifth of Mad Dog Orange, that Mogan David wine, and a fifth of that Wild Irish Rose. Got to drinking on that, fell asleep. Oh, and I only had about that much water in a gallon and 1 can of chili. Yeah, I went up there, fell asleep, and woke up, and everything was dark. And I'm thinking, man, I've been asleep a long time. Surely it's daylight by now. And so I shined my flashlight, got down, sure enough, that damn door was, I thought it had just shut too, and I could reopen it, but no. Apparently a rail worker, probably out at the immigration checkpoint near Sunland Park, 12 miles out of El Paso. The immigration probably had shut the door on me. I never knew who did it. And we're stopped in the siding, and I didn't know it, so I'm thinking, well, are we at a loading dock, or what's going on? About 20 minutes later, the train started pulling again. And man, by now, I have that fear feeling in my chest, like you want an anxiety attack, you want to hyperventilate. And I'm thinking, oh God, what have I gotten myself into? And I prayed to God. I said, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never cuss again. I'll never drink. And I only drank one of them, that Mad Dog. I took that Wild Eye and busted it. I said, I ain't drinking no more, God, I mean it. And there was a piece of foam missing, because them doors, in a plug door, they have a foam seal that goes around the door. And a piece of it about that long was broke, and I could see light out of it. So I made me a sign, said help on both sides, and stuck some tape on it and lowered it out of that hole. And about 16 hours is how long I was locked in there. But thank God they yarded that train in Tucson. And I took that can of chili and I'm banging on the door. Help, get me out of here, please, help. Bam, 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 bam. And I gave up. I didn't hear nothing. Then I could hear a railroad worker crunching in the rocks. He was pulling them reservoir release pins so they could roll the cars freely. And I'm like, man, get me out of here, please. And I could hear him on the radio. Yeah, we got a guy trapped in a Sioux Line boxcar, and he read out the call number for it. He cranked that door open, and I dove out, got on the ground, and kissed the gravel, gave that worker a big hug. He's sitting there trying not to laugh. And I skedaddled, hightailed out of that yard. And that before they had the fence between Aviation Boulevard by their yard and Tucson. There's a hobo park. All the hobos and riders used to wait at for their train. I went over there and I was sitting at the picnic table telling a couple other riders what happened. Apparently they didn't believe me, but the bull pulled it up. And he goes, which one of you guys got trapped in that boxcar? And I went, that'd be me. He goes, are you okay? I said, yeah, it was just one hell of a scare. He goes, I take it you won't be riding boxcar for a while, will you? And I said, no way, And thank God it wasn't July or August. going through that desert, I would have baked to death in there. But yeah, for about 2 whole years, I never got into a boxcar. I rode anything but a damn boxcar. But in another video I'll show how you open a plug door boxcar. There's various types. Some have 2 handles that come out and then fold down, but most common are the twist ones. But what you do after you open it, roll the door back how far you want it, and then twist it back down, and that door will snug up against the boxcar wall itself and still spike the shit out of it. But that's that story. And I guess I could do the hand one. About 2.5 years ago, I called out of Kansas City, not yard, the KCS yard off Front Street in Kansas City. Yeah, got on a grain hopper, covered hopper, and I was just planned on going to Pittsburgh, the first crew change south, Pittsburgh, Kansas. So we're rolling in. I wanted to get off at the overpass where I could sleep up out of the wind underneath, and I threw my gear off, and apparently it had frosted. We had stopped somewhere long enough for the dew to settle and create frost. And I misjudged, because of my bad eyes, I misjudged the distance. Because usually I'll step down on the decoupler bar and then bail off. My foot hit that decoupler bar and down I went fast. And I had to think within 1 second what to do. As soon as my body hit the ballast, now I'm horizontal, I pushed myself off away from the rail like that, and I had my pinky and ring finger on top of the rail, and that gondola ran them over. And I remember it felt like lightning shot up my arm. I knew what had happened, but it didn't hurt until I looked at it, and I had gloves on, but the glove was hanging down like that. And of course I had lost my phone about 3 or 4 days earlier in Shreveport, Louisiana, and couldn't call 911, so I had to walk about 4 blocks. This is 4 in the morning too, and first house banging on the door, help, help. And it was an off-duty police officer, I come to find out later, that answered the door. He took the belt, he had a pair of pants hanging up on the wall, he took the belt off of and put a tourniquet on. And the daggum police were there with a trespass ticket before the ambulance even got there. And so they rushed me to the hospital and gave me 100 of fentanyl, 100 micrograms. And that still didn't work, it gave me another 100. And then they didn't have a surgeon. Kansas City, Kansas was the only place at Memorial Hospital. So they put me in a life flight helicopter. And man, it was one of them small Bell helicopters. Holy crap. There's only room enough for the patient to lay down and the 2 paramedics to lean over. There's how much room's in one of them little life flight helicopters. They aren't spacious at all. So I was pretty much out. They must have gave me another 100 micrograms of fentanyl. But the good thing is, I had a male nurse there in Pittsburgh before they flew me out that knew me from my videos, and there was no way they could bring my gear. So they said, you'll have to come back to the hospital and talk to security to claim your gear. And I went, all right, that's fine. But the next day in Kansas City after surgery, my first surgery, that male nurse actually took my gear, drove 130 miles all the way to Kansas City to the hospital and brought me my gear back. I thought, man, that was really, really righteous. And so me and him were still pretty good friends. But they did a total of 9 surgeries, and they had to take some skin off my hip for a skin graft on the final surgery. And so now you know.